The blood had dried before anyone came for Sasuke. He sat on the floor of the Uchiha house. His back rested against the wall, and his knees were pulled to his chest. The hallway lamp still burned. Its pale light reached the edge of the room and stopped at his father's motionless hand. The rest remained in shadow. Every sound in the district had ended. No sandals struck the street. No doors opened. No member of the police force called for survivors. Sasuke had screamed until his throat tore, then waited, because children were taught that adults arrived when something terrible happened. No one arrived. When footsteps finally crossed the front garden, Sasuke lifted his head. His fingers closed around a kunai that had belonged to Mikoto. The blade shook so hard that its point clicked against the floorboards. Kushina Uzumaki stopped in the doorway. She had come in a shinobi vest over a house robe. Her red hair was tied with a strip of cloth that had once been white. 2 Anbu waited behind her, but she raised one hand and kept them outside. She looked at Fugaku. She looked at Mikoto. Then she looked at the child between them. Sasuke expected questions. He expected someone to ask what Itachi had done, where he had gone, and whether Sasuke had awakened the Sharingan. Kushina crossed the room, knelt in the blood, and opened her arms. That was the first moment Sasuke understood that the night was real. His kunai fell. He did not remember moving. His face struck her shoulder, and his hands locked in the back of her vest. The sound that came out of him was too small for all the bodies around them. Kushina held him while the ANBU searched the district. She did not promise that everything would be fine. She did not tell him to be strong. She stayed until his grip loosened from exhaustion. Then she carried him out of the Uchiha compound beneath a sky already turning gray. At the gate, a masked operative asked whether the boy should be taken to the hospital under guard. Kushina tightened her arms around Sasuke. He is coming home with me. That decision reached the Hokage Tower before she did. Minato Namikaze had returned to Konoha less than 15 minutes earlier. He had discovered that the emergency on the northern border had been manufactured. A messenger hawk had carried a warning about a massed Iwa force. The patrol routes in the report were accurate. The seal belonged to a real intelligence officer, and every name attached to it checked out. The army did not exist. The barrier around the Uchiha district had been designed for more than silence. It severed chakra signatures, rejected known space-time markers, and made every Hiraishin formula inside the compound answer as though its coordinates had been cut out of the world. Minato spent 11 minutes helping the barrier core open a narrow breach. Kushina entered with the first search team, while he went to the tower, where Danzo was already trying to define the massacre before the bodies had been counted. Minato stood in the council chamber with dried mud on his cloak and the smell of Hiraishin smoke still clinging to him. Hiruzen sat at one end of the table. Homura and Koharu occupied the other. Danzo stood near the window, one hand resting on his cane. The reports on the table used careful language. Internal clan violence. One surviving witness. Primary suspect. Itachi Uchiha. Investigation pending. Minato had read battlefield reports with less blood hidden between their lines. Itachi had served directly under him. The boy carried too much responsibility and spoke too little. But Minato had never doubted his devotion to Sasuke. Only 3 days earlier, Itachi had asked for permission to withdraw from Anbu duties for his brother's academy ceremony. A man planning to test his strength by murdering his family did not arrange time off to watch a 7-year-old throw shuriken. Itachi also knew a private emergency code that reached Minato's command terminal without passing through the ordinary Anbu network. If he had believed he was free to ask for help, he had possessed a way to do it. The absence of that call disturbed Minato almost as much as the bodies. Danzo argued that motive no longer mattered. The massacre proved what he had warned for years. The Uchiha had become unstable, and their last child had to be secured before grief awakened dangerous eyes. Secured meant isolated. Trained meant conditioned. Protected meant hidden, beneath the village, in a place where children lost their names. Minato listened until Danzo proposed transferring Sasuke to Root. A thin line of yellow light ran over the floor as Minato's chakra sharpened around him. Sasuke Uchiha is a citizen of this village, Minato said. He is also a child whose family was murdered inside our walls. He will not disappear into a black site because the council finds his survival inconvenient. Danzo met his gaze. He reminded Minato that Hokage were required to choose the village over personal feelings. Minato placed the forged border report on the table. Then someone made a serious mistake by turning this into something personal. For the first time that morning, Danzo's fingers tightened around his cane. Kushina entered before the argument could continue. Sasuke slept against her shoulder, his face colorless beneath streaks of dust. Naruto followed 2 steps behind, in frog-patterned pajamas and 1 untied sandal. He had refused to stay with a neighbor after seeing his mother return covered in blood. The council stared at the 2 children. Naruto stared back, then moved closer to Kushina, as if he could shield both of them by standing in the way. Kushina announced that Sasuke would live in the Namikaze home until he chose otherwise. Homura objected. Koharu warned that placing the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki beside the last Uchiha created an unacceptable concentration of risk. Kushina's chains did not emerge, but the seals tattooed around her wrists glowed through the skin. Then it is fortunate, she said, that both boys will be living with the 2 people in this room most qualified to protect them. Minato should have paused. A Hokage had to consider appearances, clan law, succession claims, and what the adoption of an Uchiha would mean to every faction already testing his authority. He looked at Sasuke's hand knotted in Kushina's sleeve. The boy was asleep and still holding on. Minato signed the temporary guardianship order before the council session ended. 7 years earlier, he and Kushina had survived the Nine-Tails attack through an Uzumaki sealing method that nearly destroyed them. Minato placed Kurama's Yang half inside Naruto with the 8 trigrams formula, while Kushina's chakra chains forced the Yin half into a reinforced shrine vessel. The vessel was not stored in a room that enemies could raid. Kushina sealed it inside an Uzumaki barrier space, with no physical entrance. Opening that space required her blood, Minato's formula, and the living key woven into Naruto's seal. Even Minato could not reach it alone, and conventional extraction techniques could not touch the chakra inside. 4 sealed records acknowledged that the vessel existed. None revealed how to enter it. The process burned through Minato's chakra network and stopped Kushina's heart twice. They spent months unable to protect Naruto or govern the village, and neither ever mistook survival for invulnerability again. By sunset, Danzo's agents were already telling people that the 4th Hokage had brought the Uchiha threat into his own home. The house itself had no idea what to do with a second son. Naruto's room was too small for another bed. The guest room had become storage after Kushina filled it with sealing scrolls, winter blankets, and 3 boxes of toys Naruto had broken but refused to throw away. By evening, Minato had cleared enough space for a futon, while Kushina found clean clothes. Sasuke woke when she tried to remove his blood-stained shirt. His eyes opened wide. Chakra snapped through his body. He caught her wrist with both hands and twisted with the reflex of a trained child. Kushina let him move until he realized who she was. His grip vanished. He asked where his parents were. Kushina sat beside the futon. The truth had no gentle shape, so she gave it to him plainly. Fugaku and Mikoto were dead. Most of the clan had been identified. Itachi was missing. Minato had ordered a full investigation. Sasuke stared at the folded blanket in his lap. He said that no investigation was needed. Itachi had shown him everything. He had forced Sasuke to watch the murders through genjutsu, then said the clan had been killed to measure his power. Kushina's nails pressed into her palm. She knew enough about the Mangekyo Sharingan to understand what kind of cruelty could be packed into a few seconds. Sasuke said he would kill Itachi. He did not raise his voice. That frightened her more than shouting would have. Kushina told him that he was allowed to hate his brother. He was allowed to want answers, and he was allowed to become strong. He was not allowed to skip dinner in her house. The rule was so ordinary that it struck through the numbness. His mouth moved, but no answer came. Naruto had been listening from the hall. He leaned too far around the doorframe and fell into the room. Sasuke flinched toward the kunai that was no longer at his side. Naruto scrambled upright and declared that the guest room belonged partly to him because half the broken toys were his. Kushina caught him by the collar before he could begin showing Sasuke which boxes were forbidden. She marched both boys toward the kitchen, one protesting and the other moving as if each step had to be remembered. At the table, Sasuke sat across from Naruto. Steam rose from bowls of rice and grilled fish. A fourth plate had been placed beside Minato, and the empty chair behind it felt wrong. Sasuke ate 3 bites because Kushina watched him. Naruto ate enough for 2 people and kept glancing up whenever Minato asked Sasuke a question. By the time the meal ended, Naruto's chopsticks had cracked between his fingers. That night, Sasuke woke to the sound of a door sliding open. Naruto stood in the guest room, carrying a pillow. He explained that Kushina had told him not to bother Sasuke, which was why he had waited until everyone was asleep. Then, he placed the pillow near the wall and lay down without asking permission. Sasuke told him to leave. Naruto refused. He said the house sounded different and he could not sleep. Sasuke understood the lie. Naruto had lived there his entire life. The house did not sound different to him. Neither boy spoke again. Naruto began snoring within minutes. Sasuke stayed awake, watching the dark ceiling while the scenes Itachi had forced into his mind returned in broken flashes. Each time he started to fall back into the Uchiha district, Naruto kicked the wall or rolled into a box of toys. By morning, Sasuke had not slept more than an hour. It was still the first peaceful night he had survived. The temporary guardianship lasted 6 months because Sasuke refused every attempt to make it permanent. He followed the rules of the house with the precision of someone completing a mission. He made his bed. He cleaned his dishes. He attended the academy. He answered Kushina when she asked where he was going. He never called the place home. The guest room remained almost empty. Kushina bought him a new training shirt, and he kept it folded in the drawer until the old one tore. Minato gave him a weapons case, and Sasuke stored it beside the door so it could be carried quickly. He did not display the Uchiha crest. He did not unpack the framed family photograph recovered from the compound. Naruto noticed every detail and understood none of them. He had spent his childhood surrounded by affection and still measured love like a competition. Kushina praised Sasuke's academy scores, so Naruto practiced until his fingers blistered. Minato corrected Sasuke's throwing stance, so Naruto began waking before sunrise to demand his own training. When Sasuke suffered nightmares, Kushina sat outside the guest room. Naruto started claiming that the 9 tails kept him awake even when the seal was quiet. Sasuke recognized the jealousy. He answered it by becoming harder to reach. Their first serious fight began over a bowl of tomatoes. Kushina had learned from Mikoto years earlier that Sasuke liked them. She added sliced tomatoes to lunch and placed the dish near him. Naruto, who hated tomatoes, took one simply because it had been offered to Sasuke first. Sasuke slacked his chopsticks away. Naruto grabbed the plate. A moment later, the table overturned and both boys crashed through the back door into the yard. They fought with Academy Taijutsu, elbows too wide and feet planted too heavily. Naruto had more stamina. Sasuke had better timing. Naruto rushed, absorbed a strike to the cheek, and tackled him into the garden. Sasuke rolled, trapped Naruto's arm, and drove a knee into his ribs. Naruto responded by biting him. Kushina separated them with one hand each. Neither could explain why the fight mattered. Naruto shouted that Sasuke acted as though the family disgusted him. Sasuke shouted back that it was not his family. The words silenced the yard. Kushina set Sasuke down. Her hands remained steady, but she looked toward the kitchen, where 4 bowls lay among spilled rice. Naruto's face changed first. Anger drained from it and left something raw. He wiped blood from his lip, turned away, and walked into the house. Sasuke waited for Kushina to scold him. She picked up the broken plate instead. She told him that grief did not give him permission to cut everyone who came close. Then she carried the pieces inside. That evening, Sasuke packed the weapons case. He left after midnight, through the window, crossed 3 roofs, and entered the old Uchiha district through a gap in the police barricade. The compound had been sealed, yet the houses remained. Konoha had not decided whether to preserve them, search them, or erase them. Dust collected over family altars. Rainwater stood in the training yard. Paper notices covered doors where investigators had cataloged the dead. Sasuke returned to his house and placed the weapons case beside the wall. He intended to stay there until he became strong enough to hunt Itachi. It was a child's plan, built from pain and discipline. Food could be stolen. Training could continue. The empty district would punish anyone who tried to care about him. Naruto found him before dawn. He had tracked Sasuke by following the chalk marks Minato used during footwork drills. Sasuke had unconsciously stepped on 3 of them while crossing the western roofs, leaving pale dust on his sandals. Naruto entered the house carrying a backpack filled with rice balls, a blanket, and one of Minato's marked kunai. Sasuke told him to go back. Naruto sat against the opposite wall. He complained that Sasuke was bad at running away because he always went to the same miserable place. The insult almost started another fight. Then, Naruto took out the family photograph from the guest room. Kushina had placed it in his backpack without his knowledge, perhaps guessing what he would do. Sasuke lunged for it. Naruto held it behind his back and demanded an answer. He wanted to know why Sasuke could carry hatred for Itachi every day, but could not carry one photograph of people who had loved him. Sasuke's fist stopped beside Naruto's jaw. For months, everyone had spoken about moving forward. Naruto was the first person who understood that Sasuke feared moving at all. If he laughed at dinner, accepted new clothes, or slept through the night, some part of him believed he was leaving Fugaku and Mikoto behind. Naruto lowered the photograph. He admitted that he did not understand what losing parents felt like. He did understand what it felt like when Minato missed his training to help Sasuke, or when Kushina spent the night outside the guest room. He had been furious because Sasuke received pieces of the family that Naruto thought belonged to him. Then he looked around the dead house and rubbed his bruised cheek. He said he did not want those pieces back anymore if the price was leaving Sasuke here. Sasuke took the photograph. They stayed until sunrise. When Kushina arrived, she found them asleep against opposite walls with the blankets stretched over both sets of legs. She sat on the porch and guarded the doorway until Minato came with breakfast. The adoption papers were signed 2 weeks later. Sasuke did not take the Namikaze name. Minato never asked him to. The Uchiha crest remained his, along with the right to inherit the clan's property and responsibilities. Until he reached adulthood and the massacre investigation ended, the compound and communal accounts would remain under supervised state custody, rather than passed to another clan or advisor. The official document described him as Sasuke Uchiha, adopted son of Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki. At dinner, Naruto tried to make him say the word brother. Sasuke threw a tomato at his face. Kushina laughed so hard that she dropped the rice pot. The guest room changed slowly after that. The weapons case moved beneath the bed. The family photograph appeared on the desk. A blue shirt hung beside the window. Sasuke still woke from nightmares, still trained until his hands split, and still watched every crow that crossed the sky. He also began leaving one side of the yard open when he practiced, because Naruto always arrived late and entered from that direction. Minato did not teach Sasuke how to forgive. He taught him how to count. On the first morning of private training, he placed 12 wooden posts across a forest clearing. Small bells hung from 6 of them. Wire connected the rest. A shallow stream cut through the center, and wet leaves covered the banks. Sasuke expected a fire technique or a lesson in speed. Minato handed him 3 kunai and told him to cross the clearing without ringing a bell. Sasuke failed in 4 steps. The first wire lay beneath the leaves. He spotted it, changed direction, and stepped into a patch of mud hiding a pressure seal. 3 bells rang behind him. He tried again. This time, he used shuriken to cut 2 wires, only to discover that the tension held another bell silent. Releasing it caused the sound. After the 7th failure, anger spoiled his breathing. He activated the Sharingan, 1 tomoe turning in each eye, and studied every line in the clearing. He saw the wires. He saw the seals. He saw Minato's footprints. He still rang a bell. Minato sat on a stone and asked how many traps were present. Sasuke answered, 21. The 2 extra traps existed because Sasuke expected Minato to be clever. He had seen bent grass and a scraped branch, then turned ordinary marks into threats. Hatred worked the same way. It sharpened attention, but it also filled empty spaces with the answer a person wanted to find. Minato told him to count again. The lesson lasted 3 months. Sasuke learned to divide a battlefield into distances. He measured how many steps an enemy needed to reach him, how long a hand seal required, and how far a thrown weapon drifted in crosswind. Minato trained him to watch shoulders instead of eyes, because the body committed to an attack before a face revealed it. He taught Sasuke to place a second weapon where an opponent would dodge the first. Naruto participated in half the sessions and complained through all of them. His chakra control lagged behind Sasuke's, but his recovery was remarkable. He could trigger every trap in the clearing, fall into the stream, climb out, and demand another attempt, while Sasuke was still analyzing the first mistake. Kushina handled the training Minato could not. She understood sealed power. Naruto had grown up knowing that the 9 tails lived behind the gate in his mind. He did not fear the fox, but confidence created its own danger. Kushina made him meditate inside a circle of suppression tags, while she adjusted the pressure on his seal. Naruto learned to recognize the difference between his chakra and Kurama's. He could borrow a thread of the fox's strength without allowing anger to choose the amount. Sasuke trained beside him. Kushina placed weights around his wrists and forced him to shape fire while keeping the flame small enough to heat a kettle. The great fireball technique was impressive. A flame controlled within a finger's width required better discipline. When he scorched his sleeve, she smacked the back of his head and made him start over. Minato also allowed Sasuke to begin the first stage of lightning nature training. The exercise produced no blade and no attack. Sasuke learned to send a weak pulse from his fingertips through his own forearm, enough to wake muscles numbed by grip drills or restore movement to a cramped finger. Minato made him practice beside a medical monitor and warned that forcing the current through his chest could stop his heart. Sasuke valued the exercise precisely because it looked small. One restored finger at the right moment could change a fight. Neither boy became unstoppable. Naruto produced more shadow clones than any academy student should, yet each clone carried his impatience. Sasuke could read movement with the Sharingan, but using it for too long left his vision pulsing and his chakra thin. Minato limited their strongest techniques and punished reckless victories more severely than clean defeats. The rivalry changed their pace. Naruto learned the shadow clone technique at 10, after stealing a glance at the outer cover of a restricted scroll. He then pestered Minato until he agreed to teach a controlled version. Sasuke responded by developing a wire-guided shuriken pattern that attacked from 4 angles. Naruto used clones to overwhelm the pattern. Sasuke learned to identify the original by the dirt on his sandals. Naruto began switching sandals with a clone. Their matches attracted academy students to the fence. Sakura Haruno watched because Sasuke was there. Shikamaru watched because Naruto's attempts to cheat Minato's rules were sometimes clever. Hinata watched Naruto rise after every throw and quietly began training harder herself. The village watched for other reasons. Rumors followed the boys through markets and training grounds. Some people saw the Hokage's son and the last Uchiha growing together and felt reassured. Others saw the Nine Tails and the Sharingan sharing secrets behind a closed gate. Danzo's words rarely appeared under his own name. They traveled through retired shinobi, shopkeepers who had lost family during the Nine Tails attack, and minor officials who wondered aloud whether Minato could judge his own household. Sasuke heard more than Naruto did. He learned to recognize conversations that stopped when he entered a room. He saw mothers pull children away from the training fence after his eyes turned red. He noticed that missions involving Uchiha property were reassigned before reaching the Hokage's desk. Minato noticed too. Each incident entered a private file hidden behind 6 seals in his office. He had not spent 5 years merely collecting rumors. In the first month after the massacre, Minato froze root recruitment and removed its access to the mission board. He rotated the ANBU guards around every government archive and demanded a full accounting of its personnel and funds. Danzo answered with a charter written during the Second Shinobi War. Root was officially dormant, yet the charter allowed it to retain intelligence and analysis cells under the joint oversight of the former Hokage and 2 senior advisors. Hyuzen, Homura, and Koharu refused to authorize a complete seizure without evidence that tied Danzo to the massacre itself. Doing so while the last Uchiha lived under his roof would have let Danzo portray every arrest as a family purge. Minato acted within the space he had. He closed 3 training sites, recovered 11 children whose names had been replaced by numbers, cut off the organization's official budget, and rebuilt the tower's SEAL network. Root survived through stockpiled wartime funds, shell clinics, false veterans pensions, and the private sale of intelligence. Each raid found rooms emptied minutes earlier and records burned in metal basins. He was building a second battlefield out of missing reports, altered patrol schedules, and names that appeared beside every failed investigation. All paths bent toward Root. None reached Danzo in a form that would survive a public hearing. The strongest clue surfaced only 4 months before Team 7 graduated, when Kushina restored a heat-damaged layer in Itachi's final Anbu log. The official archive showed that he had been removed from duty the day before the massacre. The recovered layer showed that he entered a restricted command room that same evening using authorization issued by the Hokage's office. Minato had issued no such authorization. The outer seal carried the same tiny defect as the false border summons. A hidden spiral beneath the central mark had been copied with 1 turn missing. The 2 documents had been created from the same stolen matrix. The log held 1 more fragment. 47 seconds after entering the command room, Itachi activated Minato's private emergency channel. A reply returned from the Hokage terminal, while Minato was already beyond the northern border. Its text had been erased, but the root stamp remained. Itachi had tried to reach him. Someone inside Konoha had answered in his name. Kushina studied the restored imprint at their kitchen table after the boys went to bed. Her finger traced the broken spiral. She told Minato that the person responsible had prepared more than a massacre. If the operation failed, the forged chain of command could place the crime on the Hokage. Minato folded the paper and looked toward the hall. Sasuke's door was closed. Naruto's was open because he believed doors slowed him down in the morning. His mistake had not been complete inaction. It had been the belief that legal pressure and a quiet investigation would prevent the civil conflict Danzo wanted. Every month of secrecy had given Root time to scatter its people, recruit frightened citizens, and study the 2 children growing beneath the Hokage's roof. Minato had been counting traps. Danzo had been moving the clearing. 5 years after the massacre, Sasuke graduated at the top of his class. Naruto finished 3 places behind him and insisted that written examinations were designed by cowards. Sakura earned the highest academic score, then forgot how to speak when she learned she had been assigned to the same team as Sasuke. Their Jonin instructor arrived almost 3 hours late. Kakashi Hatake stood in the classroom doorway with 1 hand in his pocket. His visible eye curved in an expression Naruto immediately distrusted. He had trained under Minato, served beside Kushina during the final years of the war, and carried an Uchiha eye behind his slanted forehead protector. To the village, those facts made him the obvious choice for Team 7. To Sasuke, they made him a locked room with too many doors. Kakashi led them to a rooftop and listened to their introductions. Sakura described her ambitions carefully. Naruto announced that he would become Hokage without using his father's name as a ladder. Sasuke said he intended to restore the honor of his clan and kill the man responsible for its destruction. He did not name Itachi. Kakashi's gaze rested on him for a moment longer than the others. He gave no lecture about revenge. He merely warned them not to eat breakfast before the survival exercise. Naruto ate anyway. Kushina had raised him to distrust anyone who interfered with meals. The exercise began at dawn in Training Ground 3. 2 bells hung from Kakashi's belt. 3 genin stood before him. The rules encouraged betrayal before the first movement. Naruto attacked immediately with 9 shadow clones. They spread through the clearing, some low and some high, forcing Kakashi to reveal how he handled multiple angles. Kakashi substituted with a log, appeared behind the original, and buried him in the ground using the headhunter technique. Sasuke did not rescue him. He studied the exchange from the tree line and counted. Kakashi had avoided 3 clones, blocked 2, dispersed 1, and substituted before the last 3 reached him. The replacement log had come from the western side of the clearing. That meant Kakashi had marked or prepared the area before the test. Sakura moved through the brush on Sasuke's right. Her steps were quieter than Naruto's, but too regular. Kakashi caught her in a genjutsu, built from her concern for Sasuke. She collapsed before reaching the center. Sasuke waited until Kakashi walked toward Naruto's trapped head. Then he launched 6 shuriken. Kakashi leaned aside. Wires flashed between the blades. 2 wrapped around the posts behind him. 1 cut the string of a bell, and the remaining shuriken drove the falling bell toward Sasuke. Kakashi caught it first. Sasuke had expected that. A second wire ran beneath the grass and tightened around Kakashi's ankle. Sasuke formed hand seals and breathed a stream of fire along the line. Kakashi cut the wire before the flame reached him. But Naruto burst from the ground at the same instant and seized his wrist. The buried Naruto had been a clone. The original had hidden among the attackers and let Kakashi assume he had identified him by chakra density. Sasuke closed the distance. His fingers reached the nearest bell. Kakashi twisted free, swept Naruto's legs, and caught Sasuke by the vest. Sakura recovered from the genjutsu in time to see both boys thrown across the clearing. The test continued until noon. Each student performed well alone. Together, they were worse than the sum of their parts. Naruto changed plans without warning. Sasuke withheld information because he expected others to slow him down. Sakura saw patterns and openings, but waited for permission to speak. Kakashi tied Naruto to a post after the final exchange and placed 2 lunchboxes before Sasuke and Sakura. He repeated the rule that anyone who fed Naruto would fail. Sasuke opened 1 box and placed half the rice on the lid. Sakura understood first. She took the lid to Naruto, while Sasuke kept watch. Naruto chewed with the satisfaction of someone who had predicted the entire outcome, which he had not. Kakashi appeared in a burst of smoke. Thunder rolled across a clear sky as his chakra pressed over the field. Sakura stiffened. Naruto swallowed too quickly and began coughing. Sasuke moved between Kakashi and the post. Kakashi asked why he had broken the rule. Sasuke answered that a 3-person cell became useless if 1 member could not move. It was a tactical decision, not kindness. Kakashi looked at Naruto, who was still tied to a post and trying to kick Sasuke in gratitude. Then, he looked at Sakura, who had positioned herself near the spare weapons pouch. He passed them. Minato had told Kakashi not to favor the boys. Kakashi obeyed by making their first month miserable. He forced Naruto to coordinate clones through hand signals. He made Sasuke fight with his Sharingan covered, so that his ordinary vision and hearing would not weaken. He gave Sakura control exercises beneath a waterfall, and taught her how to break genjutsu before either boy realized she could already detect it faster than they could. Her control created another advantage. Kakashi taught her to place a thin burst of chakra on an existing stress line in stone. She could crack a tile, split a weakened ledge, or open a groove for water without possessing monstrous strength or an earth release technique. The method demanded accuracy. A strike placed 2 fingers wide only bruised her hand. Their early missions involved lost animals, field repairs, and escorting merchants through roads safe enough for civilians. Naruto complained. Sasuke treated each task seriously because Minato had taught him that careless habits did not vanish when a mission became dangerous. The difference saved them on their first C-rank assignment. The client was an elderly records clerk named Toma, who needed to deliver tax ledgers to a border office near the Land of Rivers. The route had no recent bandit activity. 2 Chunin teams had crossed it that month. Kakashi accepted the mission after examining the documents and finding nothing remarkable. The assignment had reached him through a quiet rotation Minato created for offices that still used independent wartime ciphers. Trusted teams visited those routes under ordinary mission covers so the pattern would not reveal which channels mattered. Kakashi knew the destination deserved care. Neither he nor Minato knew that Toma carried evidence. On the 3rd day, Sasuke noticed that Toma's pack hung differently. During the first 2 days, its weight had pulled low against the clerk's left hip. After the second night's camp, the same pack rode high and close to his spine. Toma had eaten from the team's supplies and carried no spare clothes. The total load had barely changed, but something dense had moved from the false bottom into the ledgers. Sasuke mentioned the altered balance to Kakashi through a hand signal during the afternoon march. Kakashi adjusted their formation. Sakura moved beside the client. Naruto sent 2 disguised clones ahead as travelers. Sasuke took the rear. The road entered a narrow cut between stone ridges. Bamboo crowded the slopes above them. A stream ran along the left side, too shallow for boats and deep enough to slow a retreat. The first clone vanished without sound. The second transmitted a brief memory before it dispersed. A wire had risen from the dust at ankle height. The attackers were not ordinary bandits. Kakashi ordered the group back, but the road behind them folded upward. An earth wall sealed the cut. 4 masked shinobi dropped from the bamboo. Their masks carried no village symbol. Each wore gray arm guards, marked with a black spiral. One of them demanded Toma's pack. Toma dropped to his knees and admitted that he had hidden a sealed packet inside the binding of one ledger. It had begun the journey beneath the false bottom of his pack. On the second evening, he found 3 shallow cuts on a roadside marker, the warning sign his contact had described, and moved the packet into the book. That was the shift Sasuke had noticed. The contact had a name. Genzo Arai had served as a procurement clerk for Root's medical branch and had been listed as missing for 4 years. He summoned Toma with an obsolete tax office cipher and waited in a rented room while a curse mark spread from his tongue into his chest. Arai expected to die before sunrise. He chose a civilian records clerk he had once worked beside because ordinary ledgers crossed checkpoints without Anbu inspection. He named a border intelligence office commanded by a veteran who still used an independent cipher Minato had created during the war. Kakashi asked why the mission request described tax records. Toma looked at the masks. He admitted that Arai had warned him not to place the packet into any normal Konoha channel. Someone inside the village read every honest report, and the mission desk itself might be compromised. The masked leader attacked before the last word left his mouth. He drove both palms down. Stone spikes erupted through the road in a line toward Toma. Sakura seized the clerk's collar and pulled him into the stream. Sasuke leaped right. Naruto leaped left and produced a wall of clones that absorbed the first volley of thrown blades. Kakashi met the leader near the center. Lightning gathered in his hand, bright enough to carve hard shadows across the ravine. 2 attackers struck from opposite slopes and forced him to turn the Chidori upward. The technique shattered a descending slab of rock, but the explosion buried Kakashi beneath broken stone and dust. The remaining attacker entered the stream after Sakura. He used a hooked blade attached to a chain. The first swing cut across the water at knee height. Sakura jumped, pushed Toma beneath the arc, and blocked the return swing with a kunai. The chain wrapped around her weapon. The attacker pulled. Sakura released the kunai instead of contesting his strength. His arm snapped backward with the unexpected slack. She stepped inside the chain's reach and drove her elbow into the lower edge of his mask. The strike cracked it. It did not stop him. He caught her shoulder, and threw her against the bank. Sasuke landed between them. 3 shuriken left his hand in a tight spread. The attacker knocked aside the first 2. The third passed wide and cut a bamboo stalk above him. Naruto understood. 2 clones pulled the falling bamboo across the stream. The attacker raised an arm to shield his head. Sasuke used the moment to wrap a wire around the chain and anchor it to the trunk. The enemy tore the bamboo apart with earth chakra, but the delay gave Sakura time to drag Toma behind a boulder. The masked leader emerged from the dust near Kakashi's position. He carried a short blade coated with a dull violet substance. The leader did not waste movements. He cut each clone through the chest, letting the poison pass through smoke, and advanced along the gaps their bodies left. Sasuke activated the Sharingan. The leader's footwork did not match his weapon. His blade threatened high, while his weight shifted low. Sasuke saw the hand entering a pouch at his hip and shouted a warning. Metal pellets struck the road. A suppression field burst outward. Naruto's remaining clones collapsed. Sasuke's Sharingan flickered. Chakra became thick and difficult to shape, as though cold mud had filled every pathway in his body. The leader changed direction and rushed Toma. Naruto moved without chakra. He caught the man's sword arm with both hands and took a knee to the stomach. The impact folded him, yet he held on. The leader struck him twice more and reached for the ledger pack. Sasuke could not form a fire technique inside the suppression field. He counted distance instead. 6 steps separated him from the leader. Sakura was 4 steps behind the boulder. The hooked chain lay beneath 2 inches of water. The anchor wire remained attached to its end. Sasuke threw his last kunai, not at the enemy, but at Sakura. She caught it by the handle. Sasuke pointed toward the water. Sakura cut the anchor wire. The tension released. The chain snapped across the stream and wrapped around the leader's ankles. Naruto used his entire weight to pull the man's upper body in the opposite direction. The leader lost balance for half a breath. Sasuke covered 6 steps in 5. He drove his shoulder beneath the man's ribs, turned, and used the enemy's own momentum to throw him into the suppression pellets. The metal spheres scattered. Their field broke. Chakra rushed back through the ravine. Naruto created 1 clone. The clone locked the leader's arms. Sasuke formed the signs for fire release. Sakura kicked the poisoned sword into the stream. The leader tore 1 arm free and reached for a seal on his tongue. Kakashi's hand emerged from the rubble and caught his wrist. The Jonin rose from beneath a broken slab, blood running from his temple. His vest was torn, and the edge of his mask had burned away. He had used an earth technique to create a pocket beneath the collapse, then waited because the attackers relaxed once they believed the strongest opponent was gone. Kakashi twisted the leader's arm behind his back and drove him into the road. The other masked shinobi tried to retreat. Sakura's opponent cut his own chain and fled up the bank. Sasuke marked his path. Naruto sent clones through the bamboo. The enemy triggered explosive tags behind him, forcing the boys to break pursuit or be caught in the blast. They chose to protect Toma. That choice kept the clerk alive. After the battle, Kakashi found a curse mark beneath the captured leader's tongue. The man bit down before they could restrain his jaw. The seal activated, burning through nerves and memory. He died without giving a name. The black spiral on his arm guard had been cut from the uniform, but a second symbol remained inside the cloth. It showed a tree whose roots wrapped around a blank circle. Sasuke had never seen Root's official insignia. Kakashi had. Inside the hidden packet, they found copies of supply orders from the month before the Uchiha Massacre. Medical equipment, suppression tags, barrier anchors, and preservative fluid had been moved through 3 shell offices controlled by retired Anbu. The final authorization carried a seal from the Hokage's office. The spiral beneath the central mark was wrong. When Team 7 returned to Konoha, Minato read the packet twice. Genzo Arai's cipher matched his archived service record, and residual chakra in the wax matched a medical sample kept from his years in Anbu procurement. The chain was not perfect, but it could be verified. Minato sealed the mission records, placed Toma under personal protection, and reclassified the assignment from C rank to A rank, because the client had concealed a lethal internal threat. Toma received witness immunity for the false declaration after surrendering every detail he knew. Team 7 received hazard pay from the Village Emergency Fund. With the amount marked for recovery from any root accounts, the investigation later froze. The dead attackers' tongue seal changed their equipment as well. Kushina prepared narrow bite lock tags using water-reactive ink. Pressed between the molars, the formula hardened around the jaw and flooded an oral curse mark with interference for several seconds. It was not a permanent seal, and it could not restore a damaged mind, but it could keep the next prisoner alive, long enough for a specialist to act. 3 went into every member's field pouch. The captured evidence was the first thread strong enough to pull. Danzo felt the movement immediately. Within a week, 3 stories spread through Konoha. The first claimed that Sasuke had used the Sharingan to force Team 7's client into giving false testimony. The second claimed that Naruto had released the 9 tails during the mission and killed friendly shinobi. The third claimed that Minato planned to dissolve the council and replace it with his family. None survived close examination. That did not matter. Rumors were not meant to win arguments. They were meant to make ordinary people uneasy before evidence arrived. A vegetable seller refused to serve Sasuke while he wore the Uchiha crest. 2 retired Chunin confronted Kushina outside the academy and asked whether she could guarantee that her adopted son would never turn on the village. Naruto found the words "Nine Tails Brat" carved into the fence behind his house for the first time in his life. He punched through the board and broke 2 fingers. Sasuke heard the same accusation in a different form. People said Minato had protected him because his eyes were useful. They said Kushina had taken him out of guilt. They said Naruto would have been safer if the last Uchiha had died with the rest. At home, Kushina cleaned Naruto's hand, while Minato explained that visible anger would feed the campaign against them. Naruto accused his father of caring more about appearances than the insult. Minato's face tightened. He had spent years accepting small attacks because the office demanded restraint. Hearing his son repeat the cost made that restraint feel less like discipline and more like surrender. Sasuke left the kitchen before the argument ended. He entered the guest room that had become his room and opened the weapons case beneath the bed. The family photograph stood on the desk. Beside it rested a second picture taken after Team 7's graduation. Naruto leaned into the frame with a grin. Sakura tried to maintain dignity. Kakashi read his book. Sasuke stood at the edge, close enough that Naruto's shoulder touched his. Every person in the house had become a target because Kushina had carried him through one doorway. Sasuke packed lightly. 2 streets away, a root observer saw the weapons case leave the house and sent a coded tap through the old drainage pipes. The rumor campaign had been designed to push Sasuke towards separation, and 3 capture corridors had been prepared along the routes between the Namikaze home and the Uchiha district. The western gate was the first one he entered. He did not intend to defect. He planned to move into the Uchiha compound, accept formal Anbu supervision, and remove the simplest weapon Danzo possessed. If the Hokage's adopted son stopped living under the Hokage's roof, the rumors would lose force. Minato could investigate without being accused of protecting family. The reasoning was clean. That was how Sasuke recognized that it was probably wrong. He left anyway. Naruto waited on the roof above the western gate. He had learned Sasuke's habits after 5 years of following him into bad decisions. He also saw the weapons case was missing. Sasuke explained the plan. Naruto listened with an expression that grew more furious with every sensible point. When Sasuke finished, Naruto dropped from the roof and blocked the road. He said Sasuke was doing the same thing he had done at 7. He was choosing an empty house because deciding to be alone felt safer than waiting to lose people. Sasuke told him this was different. Naruto stepped closer. "You are my brother. That makes it my problem too." It was the first time he said the word without teasing. Sasuke's hand tightened around the case. He wanted to reject it because accepting the word gave the world another way to hurt him. Before he could answer, the lanterns along the gate went dark. A pressure seal closed over the street. Naruto reached for a marked kunai and pressed his thumb toward the emergency pulse Minato had added after the ravine mission. A wire looped around his wrist before the signal completed and tore the weapon into the gutter. 6 figures emerged from the alleys wearing plain masks and gray armor. Sasuke recognized the spiral on their arm guards. The root captain raised 2 fingers. Black markings spread from prepared seals beneath the road. They climbed the walls, covered the rooftops, and formed a barrier that bent sound inward. To anyone outside, the street remained empty. The captain told Sasuke that he was being placed under protective custody by authority of the village council. Naruto produced shadow clones. A root operative slammed a palm against the ground. The same suppression field from the ravine spread through the barrier. Most of the clones burst before fully forming. Sasuke dropped the weapons case and kicked it open. Kunai scattered across the stones. He took 2 and threw them at the nearest masks. The root agents moved as a unit. 1 deflected the weapons. 2 circled behind. Another formed a wind blade, thin enough to cut roof tiles without disturbing the wall beneath them. Naruto ducked under the blade and charged the seal user. He fought with fists because chakra would not answer cleanly. The first root operative caught his punch. Naruto stepped on the man's foot, drove his forehead into the mask, and used the recoil to twist free. Sasuke faced 2 opponents in the center of the road. The Sharingan flickered under suppression, but remained active. He saw their attacks and lacked the speed to answer both. A short sword opened his sleeve. A kick struck his hip. He let the second impact turn him, and threw a kunai toward the dark lantern above Naruto. The blade cut the support rope. The iron lantern dropped. Naruto caught the idea. He kicked it into the seal array. Burning oil spread across 2 markings and disrupted the field in a narrow strip. Chakra returned inside that strip. Sasuke inhaled and released a fireball along the ground. The flames were smaller than the technique he had practiced since childhood, shaped to stay within the open channel. They rolled beneath the root agents and forced them onto the walls. Naruto formed 3 clones in the same space. The clones threw him upward. He caught 1 operative around the waist and dragged him from the wall into Sasuke's waiting kick. The captain did not join the exchange. He watched the brothers adapt, then changed the objective. A needle struck Naruto below the shoulder. His body went heavy. He landed on 1 knee and tore the needle out, but the drug had already entered his blood. Sasuke moved toward him. A root agent appeared at his back and pressed a seal against his neck. Pain flashed through his spine. His muscles locked. The captain caught him before he hit the ground. He ordered the others to leave Naruto. The needle carried a reduced dose, selected by Root's medic to keep a Jinchuriki alive and immobile. Killing the Hokage's son inside his own district would create complications, and Naruto was not part of the extraction order. Sasuke was the priority. Naruto tried to rise. His arm collapsed beneath him. The barrier opened for less than a second. Root carried Sasuke through the darkness beneath the gate and vanished into tunnels prepared under Konoha, years before Minato became Hokage. The last thing Sasuke saw was Naruto dragging himself forward with his fingers, leaving blood on the stones. The drug had been derived from a compound that could paralyze a grown shinobi for an hour. Root's reduced dose was supposed to hold Naruto for 12 minutes without stopping his heart. The calculation did not account for Kurama, or for Naruto forcing his body to move while the poison was still spreading. He lay beneath the dark gate and forced himself to breathe through the nausea. Kushina had taught him that foreign chakra and poison created different pressures. Chakra pushed against the network from within. Poison moved with the blood. He found the cold weight spreading from his shoulder and reached for the thin thread of power behind the seal on his stomach. Kurama answered with heat and contempt. The fox's chakra rushed too quickly. Naruto stopped it at his chest, compressed it, and drove only a narrow current through the poisoned arm. Every vein felt scraped with wire. The drug burned. His heartbeat stumbled, recovered, then accelerated. Naruto rolled onto his knees. The root barrier had closed, but one section of the road sounded hollow beneath his knuckles. Naruto found the marked kunai in the gutter and tried the emergency pulse again. The dying barrier bent the chakra inward. No answer returned. He formed a shadow clone and sent it toward the tower. The copy managed 8 steps before the poison made its chakra shiver apart. Naruto could not hold a second one. He pushed the marked kunai beneath a stone shaped to resemble part of the gutter and scratched an arrow through the spilled lamp oil. If Minato searched the street, the marker would tell him where to begin. Naruto pulled the false stone until a concealed hatch opened. Cold air rose from below. The hatch had already begun sealing itself. Leaving the street would sacrifice the only open trail to Sasuke. He dropped into the dark. The tunnel sloped beneath the western wall, narrow at first, and then wide enough for 3 people to walk side by side. Seal script covered the ceiling. Most of it suppressed sound and masked chakra. Naruto dragged one hand along the stone to keep his balance, while the drug continued to weaken his legs. Ahead, Sasuke regained control of one finger. Root carried him between 2 operatives. The seal on his neck interrupted the signals running from his brain to his muscles, but it did not stop chakra itself. Sasuke returned to the weak lightning pulse Minato had made him practice under medical supervision. It had been meant to wake cramped fingers, not burn through a paralysis mark. He narrowed the current to one arm and kept it away from his chest. The first pulse made his arm convulse. The second reached his shoulder. The third burned through part of the paralysis mark. He waited until the group entered a junction chamber. 4 tunnels opened around a circular floor. Iron pipes crossed the ceiling, carrying water toward the older districts. Lamps burned behind wire cages. The route captain walked in front. 2 agents supported Sasuke. A seal specialist followed behind. Sasuke released lightning through both arms. He drove an elbow into the throat of the operative on his right, twisted free of the other, and kicked the nearest lamp from its bracket. Darkness covered half the chamber. The captain turned and released a wind blade. Sasuke saw the shoulder move through his Sharingan. He dropped flat. The blade passed above him and cut through a water pipe. A white stream struck the floor. The seal specialist moved to restore the suppression array. Sasuke threw a kunai at the Tage over the remaining lamp. The blade missed the flame and struck the pipe instead. The captain understood the target too late. Water spread over the seal lines. Ink lifted from the stone and ran toward the drains. The pressure around Sasuke's chakra weakened. He formed 2 hand signs and breathed fire into the falling water. Steam filled the chamber. Root operatives closed their eyes and shifted to sound. Sasuke had expected that. He stepped into the rushing water to hide his footfalls, moved behind the first agent, and pulled the man's mask backward by its strap. The operative raised an arm. Sasuke trapped it, struck the elbow, and took the short blade from his belt. The captain attacked through the steam with wind chakra wrapped around his hand. Sasuke blocked with the stolen blade. The edge split at once. Wind cut across Sasuke's ribs and threw him against the wall. The captain caught him by the throat. He explained that the operation did not require Sasuke's cooperation. Danzo needed one eye intact and enough living tissue to preserve its strength. The second eye could be studied. Sasuke's vision narrowed. Rage rose faster than thought. The Sharingan spun, searching for any opening, but the captain kept his face angled away and tightened his grip. A shadow clone dropped from the ceiling pipe. Naruto had followed the water noise through the tunnels and climbed above the chamber through a maintenance shaft. The clone struck the captain's wrist. The real Naruto entered through the steam at knee height and drove both shoulders into his legs. The captain fell. Sasuke landed hard, pulled air into his bruised throat, and saw Naruto sway beside him. Naruto's skin had turned pale beneath the dirt. The poison was still in his blood. Sasuke asked why he had followed. Naruto answered that brothers did not leave each other underground. The root agents recovered before Sasuke could respond. The seal specialist pressed both hands to the wall. Fresh script spread over the wet floor, black lines swimming through the water like living roots. Chakra suppression returned in waves. Naruto's clone vanished. Sasuke's fire died in his throat. 4 operatives formed a ring around them. The captain stood outside it, one arm hanging from the shoulder Naruto had struck. Naruto and Sasuke moved back to back. The first operative came from Naruto's side, with a straight sword. Naruto leaned away from the thrust, caught the attacker's wrist, and failed to stop the second hand driving toward his kidney. Sasuke intercepted with a kick. Another root agent swept his supporting leg and forced both boys apart. The ring tightened whenever they tried to regroup. Sasuke blocked 2 strikes and took a third across the shoulder. Naruto used the wall to stay upright after a blow to the stomach. Root's discipline removed the chaos they usually exploited. Each operative covered the space left by another. Their masks gave no expression to read. The suppression field prevented Naruto from producing enough clones to break the formation. Sasuke looked down at the lines beneath the water. The seal specialist had repaired the array quickly. Too quickly. The script was connected to the iron pipes, using the water system to carry suppression through the entire chamber. Destroying one mark would not open another gap. They had to overload the network. Naruto could do that. The risk was what came after. Sasuke told him to use the fox. Naruto hesitated. The poison had already disrupted his control. Pulling more chakra could tear the thread open and let Kurama force its way through. A root blade cut Sasuke's thigh. He stumbled, parried another strike, and told Naruto to trust him. Naruto closed his eyes for half a second. Behind the seal, Kurama waited with one enormous eye open. The fox offered power in a flood. Naruto took more than Kushina allowed during training, and less than the fox wanted him to take. Red chakra erupted around him. The suppression array fought to absorb it. Black lines blazed across the chamber. The water began to boil. Naruto's wounds closed at the edges, and his pupils narrowed. One tail formed behind him, lashing through the steam. The nearest root operative stepped back for the first time. Naruto struck him before the foot touched the ground. The punch broke the mask and drove the man across the chamber. A second operative attacked from behind. The chakra tail caught his sword, wrapped around the blade, and threw him into the sealing pipes. The seal specialist poured more chakra into the array. Black script climbed Naruto's legs. His red cloak flared brighter. The conflict shook dust from the ceiling. Sasuke saw Naruto's fingers curl like claws. The fox's chakra had broken the formation. It was also beginning to break Naruto. Sasuke entered the red aura. Heat cut his skin. Kurama's chakra pressed against his Sharingan with an ancient hatred that did not belong to either boy. Naruto turned toward him, teeth bared. Sasuke did not use genjutsu. He grabbed Naruto's jacket and struck his forehead against Naruto's. He reminded him of the kettle in Kushina's kitchen. A great flame was easy. Holding it at the right size was control. Naruto's hand rose. For one dangerous instant, Sasuke thought the claws would enter his chest. Then, Naruto caught Sasuke's wrist. The red chakra pulled inward. One tail remained, dense and controlled. Together, they attacked the array. Naruto drove the tail into the central lines. Sasuke followed the current with his Sharingan, found the point where 6 channels crossed, and stabbed the short blade into the stone. He sent every spark of lightning he could shape down the metal. The network overloaded. Seal script flashed white. The iron pipes burst from the walls. Water and steam exploded through the chamber, tearing the root formation apart. Sasuke landed near the captain. The man formed a wind blade with his uninjured hand and aimed it past Sasuke toward Naruto, who had dropped to one knee after releasing Kurama's chakra. Sasuke could dodge. He did not. He caught the captain's wrist with both hands. Wind sliced through his sleeve and opened a line along his forearm. He stepped inside the attack, drove his knee into the captain's damaged shoulder, and turned the arm until the joint failed. The captain tried to activate the curse seal on his tongue. In the instant the suppression array failed, Naruto formed one final clone and sent it through the nearest drain. It emerged behind the captain and drove one of Kushina's bite-lock tags between his teeth. Water from the broken pipes darkened the hidden ink. The paper stiffened around the man's jaw, and the interference formula flashed across the curse mark on his tongue. The captain's seal sparked, fought the tag for one breath, and failed. Sasuke knocked him unconscious. The battle had lasted less than 4 minutes. The chamber looked as if a river had passed through it. 2 root agents lay beneath broken pipes. One had escaped through a side tunnel. The seal specialist crawled toward a hidden switch until Naruto placed a foot on his hand. Sasuke slid down the wall. Blood ran into his sandal from the cut in his thigh. Naruto sat beside him, breathing through the poison and the after effects of Kurama's chakra. They did not speak about the word brother again. The point had been settled. A metallic sound traveled through the tunnel. Chains struck stone somewhere beyond the junction. A scream followed, then another. The walls shook as a crimson chakra chain punched through the sealed door and ripped it from its hinges. Kushina entered, with her hair floating around her and 6 glowing chains moving behind her shoulders. 3 root reinforcements were bound together at her feet. She took in Naruto's pale face, Sasuke's bleeding leg, and the instruments laid out on a tray near the far tunnel. One instrument had a curved brace sized to hold an eye open. Kushina's chains tightened until the stone beneath them creaked. The captain regained consciousness and slid the fingers of his unbroken arm toward a second seal hidden beneath his sleeve. Kushina saw the movement before Naruto could warn her. One chain caught his wrist and folded the arm behind him until the joint broke, stopping the activation. She ordered the Anbu medics to stabilize every prisoner. Then she stepped away from the captain and told Kakashi that an independent interrogation team would handle him. She wanted his statement usable in a hearing, not dismissed as something extracted by an enraged mother. Minato reached the western gate 30 seconds after Kushina felt Naruto draw on Kurama. He found blood, a discarded weapons case, the fading edge of a barrier seal, and Naruto's marked kunai wedged beneath the false gutter stone. The failed pulse stored in its formula showed that Naruto had tried to call him. The arrow cut through the lamp oil pointed to the sealed hatch. Minato opened the outer shaft with a counterseal. Kushina could sense the seal inside Naruto more clearly than the deeper barriers could hide it. So she descended with Kakashi, 2 medics, and a squad of loyal Anbu. Minato remained above when the Hokage Tower's emergency network flared. A second attack had already begun. The fight beneath the village lasted less than 4 minutes. Reaching the chamber and stabilizing the injured took another 7. A medic gave Naruto a temporary neutralizer that slowed the poison but would not clear it, then sealed Sasuke's thigh tightly enough to control the bleeding. Inside the captain's bracer, Kakashi found a waxed, self-burning operations sheet whose ignition seal had failed when the chamber flooded. It ordered Phase 2 to begin 3 minutes after the extraction, and identified a wartime vault beneath the Hokage Tower as the records transfer point. No immediate confession was needed. Kushina stayed to secure the prisoners and the surviving root facility. Kakashi was ordered to take both boys to the hospital. Sasuke refused after reading the transfer order, and Naruto refused to let him go alone. Kakashi allowed them to follow behind him, only after the medic judged that they could move for a few more minutes. Leaving them in a compromised root facility with wounded medics, unstable prisoners, and several uncleared tunnels was no safer than keeping them behind their Jonin instructor. The evidence would also be destroyed before another escort could arrive. He sent Pakun for Sakura and warned both boys that protecting records did not give them permission to chase Danzo. At the tower, a second Shinobi War continuity statute had created the appearance of lawful removal. The statute allowed 2 senior advisors and the previous Hokage to suspend a sitting Hokage for 1 hour while the Jonin Council assembled. Homura and Koharu had signed after Danzo showed them fabricated evidence that Minato was concealing Sasuke. Hiruzen's required counterseal had been forged. A separate false order sent half the tower guard toward the eastern wall. Root operatives replaced 2 inner posts and entered carrying the suspension document. It looked legal long enough to divide the remaining guards and lock loyal officers away from the upper floor. Danzo had prepared the document before the kidnapping. If Sasuke disappeared, Minato would be accused of hiding him. If the boy died, grief could push the Hokage into an action that justified permanent removal. Minato read the order in his office, while 20 masked agents occupied the halls. Danzo stood across the desk. He claimed the village could no longer be governed around the fears of one family. Minato had allowed the Jinchuriki and the last Uchiha to become emotionally dependent on each other, creating a combined threat that no future administration could control. The paired seal beneath Minato's sleeve heated. Kushina's compressed report carried 3 images from the chamber below. They showed Sasuke's blood, a restraint tray, and the curved brace meant to hold an eye open. Minato asked whether cutting out Sasuke's eyes had been part of that control. Danzo's expression did not change. That was answer enough. The first root operative moved behind Minato. A yellow flash crossed the room. The operative's sword struck empty air. Minato appeared beside the window, touched 2 fingers to the glass, and activated a seal placed there years earlier. Every marked door in the tower locked at once. The emergency order on his desk burned around the edges, revealing a second layer of ink beneath Hiruzen's forged counterseal. Kushina had designed the test after restoring the broken spiral. Any document bearing a copied Hokage seal now exposed the chakra matrix used to prepare it. The matrix matched Danzo's personal command seal. Homura and Koharu had signed a lie, but the authority that made the lie appear binding had come from him. The root agents attacked. Minato moved through them in flashes, striking joints, removing weapons, and placing seals rather than killing. Danzo wanted bodies in the Hokage Tower. Dead root operatives could be presented as loyal shinobi, murdered during an unlawful purge. Minato denied him the evidence. One agent drove a blade through Minato's cloak and struck a chair. Minato appeared above him, pressed a suppression mark to the back of his neck, and sent him to the floor. 2 more released wind techniques down the hall. Minato redirected the first with a barrier seal and teleported the second into an empty training yard outside the village wall. Danzo used the confusion to retreat through the hidden archive behind the office. Minato followed. The passage descended beneath the Hokage monument, into a vault built during the Second Shinobi War. Shelves held mission records too dangerous for public archives. Root had tunneled into the rear wall. Danzo had spent years moving through the heart of the village government, while everyone looked toward his underground headquarters. He reached the central chamber and removed the bandages from his right arm. Sharingan opened across pale implanted flesh. For several seconds, Minato said nothing. The eyes turned independently. Stolen pieces of the clan whose destruction Danzo had called necessary. Sasuke reached the chamber behind Kakashi 10 minutes after the tower lockdown began. The field seal around his thigh had already darkened with blood. Naruto's temporary antidote kept him upright, though his hands still shook whenever his heartbeat accelerated. The waxed order from the captain's bracer had led them through the correct underground route, while Minato's locked doors delayed route above. Now Sasuke stood at the entrance and saw his clan staring from Danzo's arm. The Sharingan in his own eyes changed. A second Tomo formed beside the first. He rushed forward. Kakashi caught the back of his vest. Sasuke twisted, almost struck him, then froze when Naruto seized his injured arm from the other side. Danzo used the opening to form vacuum bullets. Compressed wind tore through the chamber. Minato teleported in front of the boys and spread a tri-pronged barrier. The first bullets curved into the seal and vanished. The last struck a shelf beyond its edge, shredding records into paper fragments. That was Danzo's real target. He did not need to defeat Minato if he destroyed every proof before the council saw it. Root agents entered through side passages and threw explosive tags toward the shelves. Kakashi intercepted one group. Naruto sent clones after the tags. Sakura appeared at the upper stair with Pakun beside her. Kakashi had sent the Ninken to bring Team 7's third member. As soon as the tower lockdown began, she struck the stress line, running beneath an old gallery lip. The weakened stone split exactly where Kakashi had taught her to aim, and 2 agents dropped into the lower aisle before they could ignite the paper. Sasuke looked from the stolen eyes to the burning shelves. Revenge pulled him toward Danzo. Truth was turning to ash behind him. He chose the records. Sasuke threw wire-guided shuriken through the room. The blades cut burning tags from scroll cases and pulled 2 boxes away from the flames. Naruto's clones smothered fire with their jackets. Sakura broke a water pipe overhead and directed the flow through a channel formed by her strikes. The 3 genin protected the evidence, while Minato fought Danzo. Danzo released a wave of wind from his mouth and followed inside it, using the pressure to hide the movement of a short blade. Minato marked a fragment of paper, threw it into the current, and teleported through the technique. His palm struck Danzo's chest. Danzo flew backward and hit the vault wall hard enough to crack stone. He stood again, with the wound already closing. 1 Sharingan on his arm, shut. Minato had studied forbidden Uchiha techniques during the war. Izanagi allowed the user to reject death and turn injury into illusion for a limited period. Danzo had enough eyes to survive repeated killing blows. A direct contest would waste time, while Root destroyed the archive. Minato changed his approach. He threw 6 marked kunai across the chamber. Danzo knocked aside 2 and avoided the rest. Minato teleported between them, attacking from angles that forced Danzo to use vacuum waves near the shelves. Each time, Minato redirected the wind with barriers, not away from the records, but toward the same section of floor. Dust cleared from a circle of old seal script. Danzo realized the pattern when Minato drove him across its center. The vault had once stored captured sealing vessels and unstable chakra artifacts during the Second Shinobi War. Its original suppression array remained beneath the stone. Minato touched the outer line and activated it. Chakra pressure dropped through the chamber. Danzo's implanted arm convulsed. The Sharingan consumed more chakra than his body could naturally provide. Under suppression, maintaining Izanagi became costly. Danzo tore the bandage from his right eye. Shisui Uchiha's Mangekyo Sharingan opened. A recovery seal around the socket cracked as the eyelid rose. The stolen eye could not be used freely. Its chakra cycle was slow, even with implanted tissue feeding it, and a command spent carelessly might not return for years. Danzo had preserved it for the moment. Control of the Hokage mattered more than secrecy. Sasuke recognized it from clan records. Kakashi recognized the danger a moment later and shouted for everyone to avoid Danzo's gaze. Koto Amatsukami did not require an obvious struggle. It could place a command inside the victim's mind and make obedience feel like choice. Danzo turned the eye toward Minato. Minato closed his own eyes. Danzo attacked at once. His wind-coated blade entered Minato's side. The body became smoke. A shadow clone had activated the suppression array. The real Minato appeared behind Danzo and pressed 2 fingers to the base of Shisui's eye. A seal spread across Danzo's face, closing the eyelid and interrupting the chakra path. Danzo drove an elbow backward. Minato blocked, but the implanted arm opened at the wrist and released a hidden curse mark. Black script wrapped around Minato's forearm. Danzo tried to bind them together and activate a self-destruction seal beneath the vault. Sasuke saw the chakra gather through his Sharingan. He abandoned the records and ran. Naruto shouted after him, but Sasuke was not charging in rage. He threw one of Minato's marked kunai past Danzo's shoulder. Minato understood and released his grip long enough to teleport to the weapon. Danzo turned to follow. Sasuke's wire tightened around his implanted arm. The wire had been attached to the kunai. When Minato teleported, it pulled Danzo's arm across his body and broke the hand sign needed to complete the seal. Naruto's clones struck from the opposite side. They could not injure Danzo seriously, but they drove him onto the suppression circle again. Sakura drove both palms into the floor, where Danzo's wind attacks had already exposed the old suppression circle. Chakra entered 2 cracked stress lines. The stone beneath his heels split. His feet dropped between the slabs, and Sakura stamped the broken edges inward before he could pull free. Kakashi cut the tendons of the implanted arm with a lightning blade, precise enough to leave the stolen eyes intact as evidence. One final Sharingan closed. Danzo's body stopped repairing itself. He looked at Sasuke across the ruined chamber and said the Uchiha had forced every decision made against them. Their pride had threatened civil war. Itachi had understood the cost and chosen the village. Sasuke's hands shook around the wire. He asked whether Itachi had been ordered to kill them. Danzo did not answer directly. He said, Itachi had been given a choice between a controlled operation and a war that would kill Sasuke with the rest. The sentence struck harder than any genjutsu. Sasuke moved toward him. Naruto stepped into his path, not to defend Danzo, but to make Sasuke look at someone other than the man who wanted to shape his next decision. Behind them, chakra chains tore through the upper doors. Kushina entered the vault, dragging the last root commander by the ankle. Her chains wrapped around Danzo, pinned his arms, and sealed every remaining chakra point. Minato ordered Danzo arrested for treason, unlawful human experimentation, conspiracy against the Hokage, forgery of military orders, and the murder of Konoha citizens. Danzo replied that history would judge Minato as the man who weakened the village for 2 children. Minato looked at the stolen eyes in Danzo's arm and the forged orders on the floor. He looked at the genin, protecting records older shinobi had tried to burn. History can read the evidence. By sunrise, an emergency Jonin tribunal had suspended Root's charter, authorized the seizure of its known facilities, and barred every operative from acting in Konoha's name. Permanent dissolution would be decided through the public inquiry after the evidence had been preserved. The public inquiry began after the hospital released the children. Naruto needed an antidote and a full night under observation while the poison cleared. Sasuke received stitches in his thigh and forearm and treatment for an electrical burn along one arm. He was also warned that another forced lightning pulse could damage the nerves in his hand. He still argued with 3 medical ninja about attending the first hearing. Sakura arrived with bruised hands and a cracked wrist. Kakashi was the only member of Team 7 who did not protest when ordered to rest, because he fell asleep before the doctor finished speaking. The inquiry lasted 9 days. Minato opened sealed portions of the investigation before clan heads, senior jonin, and civilian representatives. Toma testified under the protected witness agreement granted after Team 7's reclassified A-rank mission. He described Genzo Arai and the hidden records. Arai's cipher, wax seal, and service samples established where the packet had come from. The captured root captain testified only after an independent Yamanaka team reviewed his accessible memories in the presence of medical observers. Kushina was barred from the interview, and his statement was treated as supporting evidence rather than the foundation of the case. SEAL experts matched the false border summons, Itachi's command room authorization, and the supply orders in Arai's packet. They matched Hiruzen's forged counterseal to the same damaged carving matrix recovered from Danzo's private archive. The chain finally proved who had sent Minato north on the night of the massacre. Medical ninja identified the Sharingan implanted in Danzo's arm as eyes removed from Uchiha bodies after death. Shisui's right eye was taken from Danzo under a suppression barrier, sealed separately, and placed in joint custody of the Hokage's office and the Uchiha Estate Trust. The exact circumstances of Shisui's death still required testimony Danzo refused to give. Financial investigators traced Root's survival to wartime reserves, shell clinics, false pension accounts, and intelligence sold through intermediaries in 3 countries. The accounts were frozen. Part of the recovered money was assigned to the rehabilitation of Root children, witness protection, and compensation for missions endangered by the organization. Homura and Koharu admitted that Danzo had warned them of an imminent coup. They had approved surveillance, emergency preparations, and the temporary suspension order after accepting fabricated evidence. They denied authorizing extermination. Both were removed from the council, placed under guarded house restriction, and referred to the Jonin Council for judgment. Hiruzen accepted responsibility for preserving the charter that allowed Root to survive after Danzo first violated the Hokage's authority. The old man resigned from every advisory role and requested formal judgment from the Jonin Council. Danzo remained confined beneath a layered barrier designed by Kushina and monitored by rotating teams from 3 clans. He had been exposed, stripped of rank, and separated from every operative still loyal to him. Minato refused calls for immediate execution. A quick death would close too many mouths and destroy the chance to identify surviving cells. It would also turn Danzo into a martyr for frightened people who still believed brutality had saved them. The truth was larger than one man. Itachi's name appeared in the records, but the final extermination order did not. Danzo had destroyed the document or never written it. Testimony established pressure, surveillance, the forge channel, and preparation. It could not reveal the conversation that led Itachi into the Uchiha district with a sword. The barrier's outer layer also carried a space-time distortion that none of Root's surviving SEAL specialists could reproduce, leaving evidence that a second conspirator had helped close the compound. Sasuke stopped sleeping. He attended the inquiry, trained until Kakashi ordered him from the field, and returned to the Uchiha compound each evening to read clan records. Anger no longer pointed in one direction. Itachi had murdered their parents. Danzo had created the choice. Fugaku had prepared a coup. Minato had investigated too slowly. Hiruzen had trusted a man he should have stopped. Every answer divided into another question. Shisui's stolen eye added another. The inquiry proved that Danzo possessed it, but not how he took it, or what Shisui had tried to do before he died. On the 10th night, a crow landed on Sasuke's window. A strip of paper was tied beneath its wing. It carried no signature, only a time and the symbol of the old Nakano shrine. Sasuke dressed quietly and reached for his weapons case. Naruto was sitting in the hall. He did not try to stop Sasuke. He said only that going alone was stupid. Sasuke told him the message was meant for one person. Naruto looked toward Minato and Kushina's closed room, then handed him a marked kunai. He agreed to wait outside the shrine. If Sasuke did not return within 10 minutes, the meaning of one person would become flexible. The brothers crossed the sleeping village together. The Nakano shrine stood within the sealed Uchiha district. Moonlight entered through holes in the roof. The stone tablet beneath the meeting hall had been removed during the investigation, leaving an empty space where generations of clan leaders had searched for answers. Itachi waited beside the altar. He wore a black cloak patterned with red clouds. His face had grown sharper, and faint lines marked the skin beneath his eyes. Sasuke remembered a brother who carried him home after training. The man before him carried the smell of rain and distant roads. Sasuke drew a kunai. Itachi did not reach for a weapon. He said Danzo's fall had made Konoha dangerous for both of them. Root survivors would seek revenge. Other villages had learned that Sasuke possessed an evolving Sharingan. Akatsuki had begun watching Naruto more closely. Itachi tried to begin with the coup. Sasuke cut him off. He already knew what Fugaku planned, what Danzo feared, and what the council ignored. He wanted the part no report could provide. He wanted to know why Itachi entered their parents' room. For the first time, Itachi looked away. Itachi explained that the Uchiha leadership had fixed the night of the coup, and that Shisui had tried to stop it before blood was spilled. Danzo ambushed Shisui, stole his right eye, and made it clear that any peaceful solution depending on the Mangekyo would be taken for root. Shisui entrusted his remaining eye to Itachi before his death and warned him that Danzo would use Sasuke to force obedience. Danzo never obtained that second eye, and Itachi did not reveal where he had hidden it. On the night of the massacre, Danzo summoned Itachi to the restricted command room and showed him a containment order bearing Minato's seal. Itachi used the private emergency code because the language did not sound like the fourth Hokage. The answer returned in Minato's correct field cipher and ordered him to act under Danzo until the Hokage came back from the border. The reply was forged. By the time Itachi understood the real operation, the district barrier had already severed every outside channel. Root teams waited at the streets leading to the civilian homes. The masked man was inside the compound. Danzo told Itachi that refusal would trigger an open assault and that Sasuke would die with everyone else. If Itachi carried out the killings, controlled the route of attack, accepted the blame, and left Konoha, Danzo guaranteed that Sasuke would be spared. Itachi had minutes, a false order, and a threat aimed at the one person fear could make him stop thinking clearly about. He chose the village and his brother over the clan. He admitted that he should have trusted Minato's character over a perfect cipher, but by then, he believed the choice had narrowed to one massacre or a war. The explanation did not excuse anything. It made the mechanism of the crime clearer. Sasuke asked whether Fugaku and Mikoto had attacked him. Itachi said they had not. Sasuke crossed the shrine before the answer ended. His first kunai strike aimed for Itachi's throat. Itachi caught his wrist. Sasuke pivoted, drove a heel toward his ribs, and released the weapon into his other hand. Itachi blocked again and stepped outside the arc. Sasuke's wire tightened around a roof beam. 3 shuriken changed direction behind Itachi. He avoided 2. The third cut his cloak. Itachi's Sharingan turned. The shrine stretched into a maze of repeating pillars. 3 altars became 9. Doorways opened onto copies of the same room, and crows crossed between them without making a sound. Sasuke had expected the hallway of his childhood home. Itachi did not use it. The restraint earned no forgiveness, but it showed that his brother understood at least one boundary he had no right to cross again. The tactical illusion still locked Sasuke's body inside false distance. Minato's first lesson returned to him. Count again. The real shrine had 8 support pillars. The illusion showed 10. A draft bent the altar flame toward a wall with no opening. 1 crow cast 2 shadows, and the nearest copy of Itachi held its weight on the wrong foot. Sasuke fixed those errors in his mind and broke the illusion. His fist struck Itachi across the mouth. Itachi allowed the impact to turn him, then caught Sasuke's next arm and pinned him against the altar. Sasuke intensified the same controlled lightning pulse he had once used to wake a cramped hand. Pain ran to his elbow, his fingers opened, and he broke one hand free, long enough to press the kunai beneath Itachi's chin. Itachi's blade touched Sasuke's side at the same moment. Both stopped. The exchange had not made Sasuke stronger than Itachi. It had proven that he was no longer the child Itachi could shape with one nightmare. Sasuke asked why Itachi had filled him with hatred after sparing him. Itachi's grip loosened. He admitted that he believed hatred would keep Sasuke focused, distant from the village, and strong enough to survive. He had expected Sasuke to grow alone, kill him one day, and return the Uchiha name to honor by avenging the clan. He had not expected Kushina to carry Sasuke home. He had not expected Minato to investigate. He had not expected Naruto to become his brother. Itachi said his plan had been built around a version of Sasuke who had nothing else to live for. Sasuke lowered the kunai. He told Itachi that their parents were still dead by his hand. No order erased that. No sacrifice gave Itachi the right to decide what kind of person Sasuke would become. Itachi accepted the judgment without defending himself. Sasuke did not forgive him. He also refused to perform the ending Itachi had designed. He demanded every piece of information Itachi possessed about the masked man who had helped with the massacre and controlled the Nine Tails years earlier. Itachi described a space-time technique, a single visible Sharingan, and a claim to the name Madara Uchiha. He warned that the masked man had encouraged the coup from the shadows, while Danzo encouraged fear inside Konoha. Both sides had been moved toward the same disaster. Minato had suspected a connection since the night Naruto was born. Now the line reached from the Nine Tails attack to the Uchiha massacre. Outside, Naruto shifted on the shrine steps as the 10 minutes ended. Itachi heard him and almost smiled. He told Sasuke that Akatsuki would eventually come for the Nine Tails. Their extraction method required a living host, which made Naruto the first target. If they captured him, the key woven into his seal might also give them a path to the yin half hidden in Kushina's barrier space. Itachi's position inside the organization might be the only warning Konoha received. Sasuke said that information would not purchase forgiveness. Itachi answered that he had stopped expecting it. He stepped backward into a storm of crows. Sasuke threw no weapon after him. When the feathers settled, Naruto entered the shrine. He examined Sasuke's bruised face, the cut across his sleeve, and the blood on one knuckle. He asked whether Itachi had escaped. Sasuke said he had been allowed to leave. Naruto laughed at the claim until Sasuke kicked him down the steps. They walked home beneath the first light of morning. Kushina was waiting in the kitchen. 2 bowls sat on the table. Minato leaned against the counter with his arms folded. Neither parent asked how the boys had left without waking them. The Hiraishin marker had not followed them automatically. Before entering the shrine, Naruto had sent the completed 2-pulse signal that Minato added after the kidnapping. Minato and Kushina reached a nearby roof before the 10-minute limit began. A sensory formula linked to the marker tracked sudden Mangekyo surges, lethal chakra pressure, and the distance between Itachi's blade and either boy. They let Sasuke ask his questions because the meeting was his choice to make. If any threshold crossed the line Minato had set, he would enter in the same instant. Sasuke placed the kunai on the table and reported the meeting from beginning to end. He did not hide the fight. He did not soften Itachi's role. He repeated the warning about Akatsuki, Shisui, the forged reply, and the masked man. Minato listened without interrupting. When Sasuke finished, he admitted that his own caution had helped create the opening Danzo used. He had believed that moving slowly would prevent civil war. In doing so, he left Itachi between a clan preparing violence and a faction constructing an extermination order in the Hokage's name. He also explained why he had allowed Itachi to leave the shrine. Capturing him that night would have told Akatsuki that its only Konoha source had been exposed and closed the clearest route to the masked man. Minato had chosen surveillance and information over an immediate arrest. It was a tactical delay, not immunity, and Itachi would still answer for the people he killed. Sasuke said the failure belonged to many people. The blood still belonged to the ones who spilled it. Minato accepted that distinction. Kushina pushed a bowl toward Sasuke. The ramen had cooled during the report. She told him he could return to the shrine and confront international criminals after breakfast next time. Naruto complained that he had received no such permission. Kushina struck both boys with the same wooden spoon. The inquiry changed Konoha slowly. Root safe houses were opened. Children taken into the program were given names, medical care, and a choice about whether to remain shinobi. Uchiha property was released from state custodianship into an estate trust under Sasuke's legal control, with independent stewards handling communal assets until he came of age. The police force headquarters became a public archive and memorial rather than another locked ruin. The inquiry permanently dissolved Root. Minato abolished the wartime continuity charter and reorganized the council so that no unelected advisor could command secret forces or suspend a Hokage through private signatures. Clan leaders gained oversight, and civilian representatives gained seats as well. Frozen Root accounts funded rehabilitation and restitution before any remainder returned to the village treasury. The system remained imperfect. Old loyalties did not disappear because new rules were written. Several Root operatives escaped. Some officials destroyed records before investigators reached them. Danzo's defeat removed a hand from the board. It did not repair the pieces he had already moved. Team 7 returned to training. Sakura began medical instruction under Kushina and the hospital corps, turning her precise control into the strength and field care needed to survive beside Naruto and Sasuke. Kakashi taught Naruto the first steps of nature transformation and forced him to perform each exercise without flooding it with Kurama's chakra. Sasuke began weaponizing the lightning control he had used underground, guiding it through a short blade while building his speed around Minato's lessons rather than trying to imitate the Hiraishin. The brothers still fought. Naruto accused Sasuke of brooding during breakfast. Sasuke accused Naruto of chewing loudly enough to alert enemy nations. Their sparring broke 2 fence sections in 1 month. Kushina made them repair both by hand. One evening, Sasuke returned from the Uchiha Memorial and found 4 places set at the table. The chair had been there for years. He'd sat in it thousands of times. That night, he noticed the small cuts Naruto had carved into one leg while bored, and the heat stain from Kushina's cooking pot. He also noticed the seal Minato had placed beneath the wood after a Root agent once tried to enter the house. It was not a temporary place. Kushina asked whether he planned to stand through dinner. Sasuke sat. He placed the Uchiha crest on the back of the chair, where it could be seen beside the Namikaze spiral carved into the wall. He told them that he intended to restore his clan, not by rebuilding the same walls or pretending the coup had never happened. He would preserve the names of the dead and uncover the masked man's role. He would make sure no child in Konoha could be turned into a weapon by a secret order again. Naruto said, "That sounded like a plan for someone who wanted to become Hokage." Sasuke answered, "That one Hokage candidate in the family was already exhausting." Minato hid a smile behind his cup. Kushina did not bother hiding hers. Sasuke looked at the three people around the table. He remembered another table, another crest, and a mother who used to place tomatoes beside his bowl. The memory still hurt. It no longer demanded that he leave the present to prove it mattered. He reached for the plate before Naruto could steal the first slice. Far beyond Konoha, Itachi walked beside Kisame beneath a sky heavy with rain. He carried Sasuke's refusal more carefully than any wound. At the next Akatsuki meeting, the masked man announced that Danzo's fall had accelerated their schedule. Minato was searching for the hand behind the Nine Tails attack, and the sealed half of Kurama could not be reached without the living key inside Naruto. Konoha had to be tested before the fourth Hokage found the rest of the trail. A new order passed through the organization. 2 members were to enter the Land of Fire and confirm Naruto's control over the Nine Tails. They would identify the defenses around the Hokage's family and determine whether the sealed yin half could be reached through Naruto's living key. Itachi said nothing, while the others discussed routes and targets. Under his cloak, a crow carried a fresh strip of paper marked for the old Nakano shrine. At dawn, 2 figures in black cloaks crossed the border river and turned toward Konoha.